The Indiana Fever finished their two-game series against the Aces, and it wasn't the most fun to watch. Not a lot of rhythm to the games. The officiating was horrible in both games, but we did learn a lot. We learned a lot about the Indiana Fever. This isn't so much a game recap or a two-game recap. I'll talk a little bit about what happened in the games, but more so about what I saw from the Indiana Fever and how it projects forward going into the playoffs. That's what's most important, not really what happened play by play in this game, right? Or in these games. So let's talk about it. First of all, free throws hasn't been a problem for the Indiana Fever all season. Definitely was a problem for them in this game. Well, it has been a problem for Nalissa Smith, but not for the Fever as a whole. So to see them miss so many free throws in that second game, and in my opinion, that's the reason they lost the game. That was actually kind of encouraging because that's not something that I expect them to do often. All right, we have that. Also, I did see a change in defensive intensity from the first game to the second game. Now we know the calls they haven't been in the Fever's favor. My thoughts on that is that the team that plays physical all the time is going to get away with a lot of physicality. We talked about that after the Minnesota Lynx game. The same thing with them. We see that with the Aces. The Indiana Fever tried to respond in that first game. The whistle went against them because my thing is you can't play physical out of frustration. You're going to get caught. You have to play it all. You have to play that way all the time, the same way the Aces do, and the same way the Minnesota Lynx do, and then you'll get away with more. The second game that came out with a lot more defensive intensity, a lot more intensity. I saw Caitlin Clark jumping in passing lanes. Some of that Lexi Hall is starting to rub off on her as opposed to the other way around now, right? And that's something that I had on my keys to the game after the first game. All right, we've heard a lot about the turnovers from the Indiana Fever all season, how they're trying to mitigate those turnovers, but it's been a one-sided conversation. It's always about the turnovers that they make on offense. Haven't heard enough about them turning the ball over, from the other team. Everything is about pace, pace, pace. Well, one of the reasons we haven't seen them always succeed in playing with pace is because of the defense. You can't always take it out of the net and then try to push it up the other team's throat. Sometimes you have to get stops, and sometimes you have to get turnovers, and then that's how you play with pace, right? So to see them actually playing with pace on the defensive end, flying around in rotations, that was great. Uh, to see Kelsey Plum get open corner shot after open corner shot, she finally made them pay on the last one. That was not so great. Where's the adjustment there? The Aces down the stretch were able to manufacture that shot pretty much at will. That was discouraging, especially because on a lot of those plays, you're not really helping as a rim defender. So why are you rotating from the corner? But it was good to see them come out of the gate in that second game with some defensive intention. Nalissa Smith, for the Indiana Fever to advance in the playoffs this season, one of two things needs to happen. One, they have to find something off of the bench that they currently don't have. And the odds of that happening are slim to none because those players aren't even getting in the game at this point. It's just three-player rotation off of the bench. That's all we got, and we know what they are at this point. Fag Bentley, Dantes, Willer, we know who they are and what they bring to the table. So that's probably not going to happen, is having some kind of revelation off of the bench. Maybe they give Berger some minutes out of nowhere and she catches fire the same way Lexi did after not playing for a while. But I doubt it. I doubt that's going to happen. The second thing that needs to happen, and probably the more likely, is Nalissa Smith goes back to being the player that we know she can be. We saw flashes of it. We've seen flashes in these last few games, but they're going to have to find a way to maximize Nalissa Smith some way or another. And the coach has to be intentional about it, not just throw you out there with the starters, knowing that Kelsey's going to shoot, knowing that Leah Boston's and Caitlin Clark are going to facilitate and shoot, and then, just leaving her out there to kind of get it where she can. Coach is going to have to be intentional about finding those minutes where they feature Nalissa Smith, finding matchups where they feature Nalissa Smith, and making that happen. That's the only way they're going to go really far in the playoffs, if they're going to go far at all. The first game, A'ja Wilson, 28 field goal attempts. That was bothersome to me because you guys knew that was plan A coming into the game, and then you did nothing to stop it. We've seen that all season with, you name the star. I don't want to sit here and name every player, but Kennedy Carter, Kalea Copper, I can go down the line. Jewel Lloyd, they've all come in and gone for maybe season highs on the Fever. It seems like once one player can really get it going, and we never really make an adjustment. We just kind of sit there and watch and hope that it stops. Saw some things in the second game that showed me they intentionally took A'ja Wilson out of the game, or at least, mitigated the amount of damage that she can do. They didn't let her just go out and shoot the ball 28 to 30 times. They made her play in the crowd. I like seeing that. Unfortunately, Chelsea Gray stepped up and was the player of the game in that second game, so it really didn't make a difference. But you do want to see a team at least make the other team go into their second and third option. Don't just keep letting the first option come in and do everything they want to do, and then we're just kind of sitting there hoping that eventually some of these shots stop falling for them. We've seen that a lot this season. So I do appreciate the Indiana Fever coming in and intentionally making somebody else besides AJ Wilson beat them. That was great. Rotations. Now, few games ago, Caitlin Clark, going into halftime, said, we need to get fresh bodies in. She made a point of saying that. We need to rotate some fresh bodies in. Okay? After the first game, we heard Caitlin Clark say, I took myself out the game. And if it wasn't for that, I probably would have played all 40 minutes. Now, a lot of people glossed over that. They glossed over that. But to me, that stood out. That was her kind of calling Chrissy Sides out in public, saying, hey, we can't win if we're just tired, playing 38 to 40 minutes a game. So what do we see in the second game? An adjustment. We saw Leah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and Caitlin Clark all under 35 minutes. And we saw the three players from the bench, Dantes, Fag, Bentley, and Willard, all around 16 minutes. So that seems like an adjustment that Caitlin Clark wanted. And it seems like when she's, I don't get tired and all of that, maybe that was some dry sarcasm. And she was actually saying, hey, man, get me a rest. I don't want to play at 80, 75% the entire game. It helps if I can come off the bench every now and then at 100% and give you guys what I can really do. So I like to see that adjustment from Chrissy Sides because they're right. The first game, I noticed that everybody played 38 minutes. And Asia Wilson and Kelsey Plum and Chelsea Gray, they were all around 32, 33. And they looked like the fresher team when it came to the end of the game. So the fact that they made those tweaks and then played a very winnable game, that was encouraging to me. That was encouraging to me. I like to see it. We can still see how far they have to go before they're actually one of the upper echelon teams. And the answer is not very far. Not very far. They're one play, maybe one coach, maybe just 1 year of development away. But they're very close. All right. I still believe they can beat the Connecticut Sun. Connecticut Sun are not the Las Vegas Aces. They're not the champions. They're trying to figure it out too. They're trying to figure out a way. They have a new player in Mabry that they're trying to implement. I think we can beat them. Can beat the Lynx as well, but I think have a less of a chance of beating the Lynx than we do the Connecticut Sun. Very fortunate to have already locked up a playoff spot and to have a team this good to measure yourself up in back-to-back games. Really couldn't have planned it any better if you're the Indiana Fever. So, I mean, this series and whatever adjustments they make afterwards could propel them into a decent finals run. I mean, a decent playoff run. I'm sorry. Did I say finals? I just mean playoff run. That's what I meant to say. Next game coming up, that's against Dallas. They're out of the playoff race, but as we know, that's not an easy game. They just played a heck of a game. Last game against Minnesota. Last time they faced us, it was not an easy game, so I'm expecting to see the same thing there. Last game of the season in Washington, that's not going to be an easy game either. They just played a hell of a game against Atlanta. They'll probably have the game of the day tomorrow going against Atlanta again. Those two teams are really fighting for that 8th playoff spot. I think Chicago's pretty much out of it at this point. I mean, mathematically they're in it, but they're out of it. So that Atlanta-Washington game is going to be playoff level if you guys want to check that out on Sunday. There's 2 more games left to test themselves, try some new things out. I don't think they'll be trying out new players in rotation or anything like that, but schematically they can try some new things out and see how it goes. I don't want to see them get too experimental with it because they need a win. You don't want to have a 3 out of 4 or even a possible 4-game losing streak going into the playoffs. You want to feel good about yourselves, but I do want to see them try, a couple new things schematically. I doubt that we'll see anybody new in the rotation. I think that's pretty much a closed book right now. It was great to see Dantes get it going, but she's a make-or-miss player. She's a great shooter, but her contribution is always going to be how many shots she makes. This game she made a lot. Next game she might not make as many. I was really proud of the fight that we saw from AB in that second game after a disappointing first game. Especially going against Asia Wilson, who loves to try to bully the other Gamecocks. She wasn't going for it in this game. That first game was kind of bad, on all accounts. But that second game, Leah Boston stepped up a lot. But for the most part, even with 2 losses, I'm not really disappointed in the Fever. I thought they did well. I thought they handled themselves well. I thought they played, okay. They didn't shoot well, but they played well, especially in that second game. And they learned some things about themselves. Now, the good thing is that the Aces have Connecticut next. And hopefully they go in there and do the same thing against Connecticut that they did against Indiana, seeing as how they're still, 1 game ahead of Seattle in the playoff race. They're still in the fight there for that 4th spot. And maybe they want home court advantage from that first game. I'm sure they do. So they're going to come out and play tough. Hopefully they blow the doors off of Connecticut and we won't feel so bad about what they did to us, That's just my hopes. Overall, obviously it wasn't great because they didn't get a win, but I did see some growth. I did see some poise, and I did see some fight from the team. And so, what more can we ask for a team that was in the lottery last? We didn't even know if they would make the playoffs this season. We knew that was a goal, but hey, listen, we were talking about possibly drafting Paige next season as well, when they started the season out the way they did, 1-8. All right, now let it go for now because as you guys know, I could talk about the fever for hours and it looks like I'm almost at an hour already. I'll probably have to cut most of this video off just to make it watchable. So thank you guys for watching. If you're not subscribed, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'm this close to 10,000. This close to 10,000. We have some things planned once we get there. But until then, catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching again. See you on the next one. Peace.